Now stay for white wedding.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Art of Medicine, episode 6. With me is the doctor who cares, Michael Uphughes. How you doing today, man?
Doing great, man, as usual.
Yeah, it's a great day.
It is. And we are down at Sunshine Supply, 352, Cobb and Kratom, as usual.
Sipping some nice Kratom right now. Getting in a good mood.
Yeah, a little red Kratom.
Yeah, yes, sir. I had a little bit of a hiatus last week. You were down in Alabama having a good time. I guess up in Alabama.
I was in Alabama, in Alabama, doing some seeing patients there. Also, I was getting workouts in, so I'm still getting up to Planet Fitness out there as well. Yeah.
What's Planet Fitness like out there, man?
It's all right. I like the one here better, but I'm more familiar with it. You know.
No, yes, sir. Kind of off topic before the episode, but have you seen the some of the Planet Fitnesses now? They have actual like squat racks and like bench presses.
No, when did that change?
It just depends because a lot of them are like privately owned now. So
that makes all the difference because they're worried about the liability issues. Why they have all Smith machines and they don't allow any freestanding squat racks and stuff like that.
Yeah, hell, even
which I prefer.
Yeah, even the one in here, they got the preacher curl now.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's sweet.
It is.
But the topic of today's episode is medical marijuana.
Yes, and it's 420, so it's a very appropriate topic for today.
Perfect. That's it.
420. So I started doing medical cannabis recommendations in Montana back in 2004. So that law has been in effect, I can't believe 22 years, but it has been. So I've been recommending cannabis for 22 years. It was first passed in Arizona and California at the same time, 1996. Those were the first states. But, it's got a long storied past. So it goes back, in Chinese medicine 5,000 years ago. It was used, cannabis was used in Ayurvedic medicine in India 2,000 years ago. In 1854, cannabis was placed in the American Pharmacopoeia and was available in over-the-counter products until 1941. So it was actually a patent medicine. And during the 1920s, it was one of the most widely prescribed medications, like 3 million prescriptions a year in this country for cannabis back in the 20s. In the 1890s, sailors brought cannabis into the port of New Orleans. It was picked up by the jazz musicians there. So when you heard about like these racist comments, people saying either musicians or especially black musicians are using cannabis, that's where all that started. It all started way back in the early 20s, in the 1920s as well, because some of the jazz musicians in New Orleans picked up cannabis, which came out of the port of New Orleans. That's where it first got in the country.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Mexican Revolution was in 1910, so a lot more was being brought in at that point for recreational use. In 1964, THC was first identified by a guy by the name of Dr. Meshulam, who's still alive. He's still working at Hebrew University in Tel Aviv. 1972, Richard Nixon appointed the Schaefer Commission to decriminalize. He felt that they should decriminalize cannabis. And actually, people really saw that as a favorable thing, but again, the powers that be never let it happen. President Carter, back in 77 to 82, he pushed for decriminalization and could never get it done either. So, when you're up against Big Pharma, it makes things very difficult,
It's been a recurring topic.
It has. What's interesting, though, is in 1985, dronabinol or Marinol is a pill that's approved, which is a Delta-9 THC pill. What's interesting about that is it's a Schedule 3 substance, not a Schedule 1. So it's not only one schedule lower, it's 2 schedules lower. There's another one called Nabilone. There's another oral preparation, but that's Schedule 2. So Nabilone Schedule 2, dronabinol Schedule 3, and you have the plant that's Schedule 1. The whole thing is crazy.
That's
super crazy. Yeah, you and I were talking about this the other day, so I looked into it. And so Trump did sign an executive order in December of 2025 to reschedule. So where it stands right now is at the level of like the DEA and so forth. And so keep in mind, they said they had to go through like 42,000 different written requests to reschedule, from citizens in the country and so forth. So this thing is going to be tied up. I mean, months is being very conservative, it's going to be a while.
Yeah, damn.
You know,
That's,
we all agree it should be rescheduled. I mean, it's just
it
ridiculous.
shouldn't even be. It's a
No,
plant.
there's never been a physiologic death from a cannabis overdose in the entire history of mankind. It's not been documented. I think there were some studies done on some rhesus monkeys where, you know, they tried. You know, they were giving them 9,000 milligrams or something of THC, and they'd go to sleep and get up and get on with their day. So they couldn't. You know, they tried killing them and couldn't do it. So we don't even know what the lethal dose would be if there was one. I don't believe it. They're probably going to find that there is one. The interesting thing about cannabis is people say, why is that? Why can't you die from it? You hear about things like all the opiate overdoses and people dying from that. Well, opiates attach to the respiratory centers in the brainstem and slow down, and then eventually shut down your respiration so you stop breathing. In that same area of the brain, there are no receptors for cannabis. So if it can't attach there, it can't kill you, and that's why. So that's the reason. There's no receptors for it, and you know they've known this for a long time, but we know there happens to be no cannabinoid receptors in the respiratory centers, so there's no chance for respiratory depression and arrest, which is super interesting.
That's awesome.
And going back, you know, in '86, Reagan started his war on drugs, so that kind of put things in reverse. You know, they were trying to decriminalize under Carter, and Reagan spun that around. But in 1988, DEA Judge Francis Young found that cannabis had a clear medicinal use, and his recommendations were ignored ultimately. 1996, cannabis was legalized for medical use in both California and Arizona. And then now to date, we've got 40 states that have now legalized, and then a handful more that have the low THC, so they'll have hemp-based products, which is 0.3% THC or less. That's how they define hemp. So that's the only difference between a medicinal plant and a hemp plant is just in the amount of THC. So anything under 0.3% THC is considered to be hemp, or a quote CBD product, and anything over that is a medicinal cannabis product. So that's how they define it.
Do you feel like hemp, you know, a lot of these, like in these smoke shops and stuff, you have a lot of this Delta 8, you know what I'm saying, this modified CBD, this modified hemp, that, I mean, I've smoked it, I've gotten stoned off of it, but like, what do you know about that?
Yeah, so I don't, what we know is we don't recommend any of them because, again, no studies have been done. There's no quality control on those products.
Yeah.
So ultimately, we're not even sure what you're getting. You know, that's my biggest scare is, you know, I can't recommend it to anybody because I have no idea what you're getting. I have no problem. I mean, we've been recommending now for 22 years to patients, including pediatric patients. So I mean, I've not been gun shy about recommending this to pediatric patients at all, especially those with seizures. So that's usually the reason we do it is kids who have a seizure disorder that are refractory to other types of therapies or pharmaceuticals. And some, to be honest with you, the parents they'd rather use something natural, like a CBD based product. So we use like a strain like Charlotte's Web or ACDC or Harlequin. Those are very high in CBD and low in THC. Everybody heard about Charlotte's Web back in the day. It became a very famous cultivar or strain because of its low THC content, high CBD, and it was very effective in stopping kids from seizing. So, and then in 1997 to 2001, the Institute of Medicine concluded that cannabis is safe and effective, and the government should expand avenues for research and development, and of course the feds ignored that. October 7th, 2003, DPHHS granted a patent on cannabis for its antioxidant properties and it being a neuroprotectant. So that product was called Sativex, still available. So that goes back to 2003. So you wonder again, why haven't they rescheduled? We got 3 drugs here that we've now talked about, and they have not rescheduled it.
Oh, damn.
Totally crazy.
That's something that's
yeah.
It's weird to think about, especially like just how common it is for just people to be smoking, you know, the amount of people that just get locked up, you know, for it. And I mean, at least now in the state of Florida, if you have under 20 grams, I think it's a misdemeanor, but still, it's a plant. You know?
Absolutely.
Why are people getting locked up for carrying a couple grams of a plant?
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't know what where they drew the line. So they drew it at 20 grams?
Yeah. So
28 grams is 1 ounce. So that's it's interesting they drew it at 20.
that's.
I mean, who cares if you got if you got 1 ounce or 1,000? I mean, it doesn't really. You can't die from this.
Yeah, that's
so
it's insane.
the whole
man.
thing's very odd.
Big pharma, you know what?
Yes.
More money in their pockets.
That and so back in 1937, there was a guy who was the head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, which is now DEA, right? But his name was Harry Anslinger. So this is the guy who, this is the famous quote of his. He said, there are 100,000 total marijuana smokers in the U.S., and most are Negroes, Hispanics, Filipinos, and entertainers. Their satanic music, jazz, and swing result from marijuana usage. This marijuana causes white women to seek sexual relations with Negroes, entertainers, and any others. Just a stunning quote. Direct quote from Harry Anslinger. You've probably never seen that before, but
So
it was a real thing.
racially motivated.
Yeah, so you can see this guy was certainly a big time racist.
Yeah, no.
And the reference to the jazz entertainers, all that comes out of is where it came in from, which was the port of New Orleans. So it was picked up immediately by those entertainers. What they found was they were more creative when they used it. So, to a large degree they were. So, yeah. So the plant itself is in the family Cannabaceae, the genus Cannabis. So it's called Cannabis. There are 100 phytocannabinoids in the plant, over 50 terpenes. In herbal medicine, remember, we're using a whole plant extract or a partial plant extract instead of just sticking a drug in a petroleum carrier base, which is what happened, right, when the Rockefellers came in the 1950s. Wow. So Rockefeller started the whole idea of putting a drug inside of a carrier base, and that's our new medicine. So herbal medicine became, quote, alternative, and this is our new. Now the pendulum seems to be swinging back. People are wanting more natural alternatives at this point.
That's it.
Right. Yeah, because they know that, big pharma is not exactly out looking out for us. They're looking out for profits.
I mean, look at where we're at right now. Sunshine Supply Kava. I mean, this is a big herbal teas, making you.
Yeah, this is huge. And in some states, they have outlawed. I know in Alabama, right? I think kratom is a felony, right?
Yeah,
which is unbelievable.
It's terrible. I mean, we've talked about the 7-hydroxy before on the podcast. It's like they take it like to what we're drinking, like what 0.3% or something like that.
0.2, something like that, and they concentrate all the way to 100%, and it's you're talking about 7-hydroxymitragynine in pure encapsulated form. Well, that's not how this was meant to be. The natural plant, it's a very, very tiny percentage, and that's why you hate to see these politicians starting to make these quotes and these crazy claims about this being kratom. No, it's 7-hydroxymitragynine. It's not a kratom. It's not a kratom plant. Don't try to put that out in the plant. It's not the plant's fault.
And they're going to use this to fearmonger people.
They have already in other states, and they've been successful.
I mean, hell, you look up kratom, you look up weed online, and all you're going to get is negative shit. You know what I mean?
It's unbelievable.
And
think about it. You're right. To this day, there's still lots of negativity about cannabis. I mean, think about how long it has taken this pendulum to swing. It became outlawed. The Marijuana Tax Act of 1937 basically killed it. So since the 30s, so we're coming up on 100 years here, not long from now. I mean, this is taking a long, long time to swing back. And especially with the research we have now and the fact that we know no one has ever died from this and the number of different conditions it can treat, you just can't understand, except that you've got big pharma to think of. Big pharma, big hospital systems, big medicine don't want natural alternatives. People can grow in their own backyard. They just don't.
I mean,
you hate to say it, but they don't.
You look at when they get their hands on this too, like a lot of the medical marijuana, the amount that they're fucking charging. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's nice, it's beautiful, but I mean, a lot of people, if they have their opportunity to buy medically, like they get their medical cards, but they still don't.
Yeah. Yeah, but it would be nice if you get to a day where you can. This can be grown in your house, your yard, and not even have to worry about it.
Yeah.
So about and about 80% of the world's population uses herbal preparation. That's most people on the planet. So it's nice to see kind of this people demanding some of the more natural approaches now.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, the two major types, as we know, cannabis sativa. Right, you guys. Just give kind of a primer on cannabis here, but cannabis sativa and cannabis indica. So cannabis sativa, and there's another one called cannabis rubra, but we don't, that has nothing to do with medicinal cannabis. But cannabis sativa usually is used for its uplifting effects. So usually it has more limonene, which is a terpene found in citrus fruits. And in general, anyway, indica strains will be used as a muscle relaxant to calm people down, to make things a little bit more mellow for seizures and for pain. And it has higher amounts of the terpene linalool, and linalool is the terpene we found in the lavender plant. So this has a very mellowing effect. Yeah. So really, it doesn't come down so much to, THC. Although, of course, when you get up into, dab hits and stuff like this, like we were talking about the other day, 85, 90% THC. Well, of course you're going to get rocked from that. That's crazy. But it was never meant to be like that at all. But some of the plants, back in the day were in the mid-teens percentage. Some of the ones we've seen on the shelf now, some of the ones in Montana, even black Afghan strains will go down into 18.5% up to maybe 20. But they have such a large amount of beta-myrcene in them that they're super potent in terms of their sedative and their pain-relieving effects, which attach to the CB1 receptors in the brain. So, yeah, it's always important to remember the terpenes really have everything to do with the entourage effect you get from a cannabis plant. You can't just try to pin this on one cannabinoid such as THC. Wow. Super important. Yeah, which is why, your question earlier about, pure Delta 8. Yeah, it's pure Delta 8, and what else is in there? Yeah. That's always my question at the smoke shop. So are they still selling that?
Yeah, I think they they passed a law in Florida to make it illegal. But I think it was only for a couple months.
Oh, okay.
And they got to pass new legislation.
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
You smoke some of that shit, man. You fucking seeing colors. You know what I mean? You're fucking. It's more like taking some Benadryl and smoking some weed.
Unbelievable.
You're seeing the Hat Man on the edge of your bed, and you're just like, what the hell is going on, man?
Love it. So there are 100 different compounds in cannabis. Cannabinoids are a subset of the terpenoids. The mother compound for all the cannabinoids like THC, CBD, CBC, CBN is CBG, cannabigerolic acid. And when you decarboxylate an acid form of the cannabinoids, which means you basically blow off a CO2 molecule by heating it up, usually between 220, 240 degrees Fahrenheit, and that lets off a CO2 compound, and that's when the cannabis then becomes activated. So if you were to take a bud off a plant, a lot of people don't know this, and eat it, you're not going to get high from that. It's still in its acid form. You have to heat that first in order to get any kind of a head high from that, in order to activate the cannabinoids. So that's really important to know.
Yeah.
Common terpenes we started to talk about, one was limonene, has anti-anxiety effects, an antidepressant effect. Linalool, which has a very calming effect, it's found in lavender. Pinene, which enhances transport across the capillaries of the brain more efficiently, and also helps to open up the lungs. So some people will notice when they smoke, they cough not only from the harshness of the smoke, but it actually opens up the airways. It doesn't clamp them down. It actually opens them up. So some people will note more mucus and so forth is dislodged when they smoke cannabis or vaporize cannabis. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but it is one of the effects you'll get is it actually causes bronchodilation, so it kind of opens up the bronchial tubes and it'll dislodge mucus that's plugged deep in the airways. Wow. It's interesting. Yeah. And then myrcene, beta-myrcene we talked about, is used as a sleep aid because it allows the THC to cross the blood-brain barrier more efficiently. You have any questions right now?
No, this is actually really interesting, though. You learn something new every day. The day that you don't learn anything new is a day wasted.
Yeah, we never do that. You and I are learning every single day.
Yeah, that's it.
We make it a point.
You got to figure out something, even if it's just simplest shit in the world.
Yeah, we make sure we read every day. It's become one of Ron's programs now.
Yeah.
He's into reading. We talked about this at length, but now a day doesn't go by where I don't read extensively. Yeah. Usually it's 4 to 8 hours of my day. 8 hours is definitely on the long side, but minimum 4 hours a day of reading and various things. Not just medical things, but lots of self-improvement, things like that. Very important. But I did want to get into a couple of specific cannabinoids. So one, THC. Why do we use it, or what is that particular cannabinoid used for? Well, it's an antispasmodic, so it stops muscle spasms. It's a good anti-inflammatory. It is a good for if you're having trouble sleeping, and also more effective for pain typically than the sativa strains. CBD has much more widespread use, and this is why it was the legislation was passed much easier for CBD. You don't get the head high from it, but it will alleviate anxiety. It helps in people that have psoriasis, so psoriatic arthritis, or skin psoriasis, cutaneous psoriasis. Anti-epileptic. It's neuroprotective. It's a vasorelaxant, so it actually will decrease blood pressure a little bit. Anti-ischemic after you've had a heart attack, so it actually opens up the arteries of the heart. Antiemetic, which means an anti-nausea medication. It's antibacterial, anti-diabetic, analgesic, and it actually stimulates bone growth as well, and a very, very important and potent anti-inflammatory as well.
Wow.
So as we talked about earlier, the high CBD strains, people were saying, what can we look at? Everybody heard about Charlotte's Web back in the day, so it was about 0.5% THC, 70% CBD. So it was very, very high in CBD to THC ratio. AC/DC was a strain 20 to 1, so it was 20% to 1% THC. And then Harlequin is a 5 to 2, so 5 CBD and 2 THC. So, yeah, interesting. I want to get into a few of the conditions we use it for, just so you guys had noticed. So these are all research-backed, so one of the most important ones people need to know about is we do certainly use it in cancer for repurposed use. So this has been known a long time. So make sure you, again, we've talked about this book, very important for people to get, is Paul Marik's, M-A-R-I-K, Paul Marik, Cancer Care. I don't think cannabis is actually mentioned in that book, but we've got 17 repurposed drugs that are tier 1 drugs to help with complement cancer treatments. So, this is in addition to immunotherapy, in addition to chemotherapy and radiation and so forth. So there are these other options. So in cancer, cannabis is used as an anti-nausea, appetite stimulant. It treats neuropathy brought on by chemotherapy. And it also has shown to be a decreased angiogenesis, which is blood supply going to the tumor cells, and actually acts as apoptotic, so death of actual cancer cells. So pretty amazing compound.
It's incredible.
It's been used a long time in neurodegenerative disorders and also seizure disorders, so we know that. DPHHS received a patent grant in 2003 based on research by Hampson. This was for its antispasmodic effects, and it was by GW Pharmaceuticals back in 2007. The product went on the market under Sativex. So it was given specifically for spasms and people who had multiple sclerosis. So you can see why Big Pharma doesn't like this so well. When they file a patent, this is all they get. They get one use.
Wow.
So when we recommend cannabis for patients in general in a state program, the state will basically let you know what they will accept. But keep in mind, a lot of people are using it for multiple reasons, and some they won't even disclose to you, to be honest. But you can see when a pharmaceutical company files, they can only file under one indication, so it's a very narrow indication.
Yeah,
it can be, of course, you can use it off-label, but still, what it's saying here is it's given for spasms in people with MS. That's a very, very narrow indication for one drug.
Yeah,
super specific. So everybody knows modes of delivery, so just want to be pretty quick. So obviously people know smoking, vaporizing, the effect is immediate, lasts for up to about 2 hours. When people take an edible preparation, it usually takes 1.5 or 2 hours to kind of kick in, and then when it does, you typically get 6 to 8 hours of effect out of it. The reason that happens is when it is being metabolized in the liver, the delta-9 THC gets converted, I think I told you this, to delta-11, which winds up being a more potent form of THC. So if people get too much of an edible, you can have a very long night of it, as you know, if you get too much.
Well, your liver processes it whenever you.
Yeah, so it takes time. It takes time. So, you take you eat a 300 milligram cookie, and you're going to be in for a long evening. Right? Starting dose is right around 10 to 20 milligrams. 10 is about right for adults. So, you get 300 milligrams. Once that hits your system, you're in for a long paranoid night.
You're stuck.
Yeah, you're stuck.
That's it. Also,
for about 12 hours.
Yeah. Also, wanted to say this: I don't smoke weed anymore. I just feel like it is very important that this should be able to be used for medical purposes, or hell, even if you just want to. You know, I like I said, I don't smoke. I don't think you don't either.
No, not at all. No, not my thing.
It's just shit like this. It's important for people. You know, it's.
Yeah, I mean, I jumped on right away when this became available to Montanans in 2004. I jumped on. I mean, I'd been waiting because I read the research back in '96 when it passed in California, Arizona. So I was just waiting for it to hit. And a lot of you can imagine a lot of docs, they didn't get near this topic because we didn't learn about it in medical school. Most didn't want to become educated about it, and a lot of people were just sarcastic about it. They were just going, all these pot smoking people and all this, when in fact, if you read the literature, it really backs wide and varied medicinal use. So another form we use it in fact is topical form. So people that have psoriasis and so forth, people that have arthritis and other forms of dermatitis, it can be very effective for that. But when applied over painful joints, especially if it's THC based, you can get quite a bit of benefit from that alone. And then, of course, you've got concentrates, right? Like RSO, Rich Simpson oil, shatter, wax, like we talked about, and so forth. And those are super, super potent. Yeah. To be honest, I'm not quite sure about medicinal use for things like shatter, wax. It could be severe pain, but it's just so potent you wind up going to sleep.
Yeah, I mean,
after that. 80 to 85, 90%.
It's just not
hits.
meant to be.
No. I mean, it's another level. But if you're gonna say what indication might it be used for, it would probably be in severe pain.
Yeah,
that'd be what you use it for. Epilepsy has been shown to be to respond well to cannabis products, even back in 1941. It was introduced by a Dr. O'Shaughnessy, who suggested it should be a treatment for epilepsy. That was 1841. Then 1947, there were two doctors, Ramsey and Davis, who did a study on epileptic patients and found benefit from cannabis. And then in 1981, there was another formal study in Brazil showing that it decreased or eliminated seizures. So the evidence was clear. All right. I think I want to go through a little bit more on the cannabinoid guide, so a few more of the cannabinoids and what they do. So, because I do get questions on this. Some people ask, what is CBN, which is cannabinol? Another one you'll hear about. So it has potent anti-inflammatory effects, analgesic effects, antispasmodic, and of course for insomnia because it will induce sleep. THCV, which is tetrahydrocannabivarin, it is a bone stimulant, so many of the cannabinoids actually stimulate bone growth. So you're looking for these in people that have osteopenia or osteoporosis. So down the road, you may see products that may be used from some of these. That decreases appetite, and it's also an anti-seizure. CBC, which is cannabichromine, another bone stimulant. It helps with neurogenesis, so actually increases brain health, this particular cannabinoid, cannabichromine. It's an antimicrobial and also an anti-inflammatory. And then CBG, which is the mother compound of all the cannabinoids, wide and varied use, anti-inflammatory, a bone stimulant. It'll decrease blood pressure, decrease anxiety, decrease pain. It's an anti-tumor agent in people that have cancers. It is a neuroprotectant, focuses energy, and it actually stimulates appetite as well. So it gives you a little background on some of the more common cannabinoids you'll hear about. And I'm not going to get into any of the, I don't think any of the more of a physiology on this. If there's anything specific, people can always get a hold of me and ask me, drmichaeluphues.com. Any questions, parting questions before we wrap up today?
I mean, not really any parting questions, but I mean, it's 420. If you have your medical card or you live in a recreational state, roll up, spark it.
And enjoy 420.
Enjoy it. And don't do it if it's not illegal, or do it. We're just telling you not to.
And when you're in Inverness, make sure you get down to Sunshine Supply, 352 Cavin Kratom, folks. I'm telling you, get down here. You got to get down here now. Like I said, the conversations in here are varied and vociferous. Any topic goes. You got to come down here.
That's it.
Incredible community they've got going down here, folks. So best to everybody. Oh, it's my boy Odin's birthday today. My little Pomeranian, 9 years old today. Yeah, 420 day, man. So we gotta give him a little nod today.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I got him some cupcakes. I hope he has the munchies tonight because we got a little some cupcakes. But I'm gonna do some cupcakes tonight for him.
Keep moving. Learn something new every day. That's it. That's it. Great episode.
Eat whole foods, mostly plants, not too much.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, guys, be well.
Yeah.